Can a man who's only been shown violence his entire life and gains superpowers become more than a monstrous entity? And better yet, can a person with a good heart who gains superpowers convince that same power-hungry supervillain to be better, or does the supervillain turn the hero into a monster himself? What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. All right, today's video, we're gonna be talking about Static, Shadows of Dakota number 6, written by Nicholas Draper Ivey and Vita Ayala, with art and color also by Nicholas Draper Ivey. This issue is the one I've been waiting a long time for. I'm very excited about this issue, and largely because it's the big Dukaroo. It's the setup, the thing that I think this entire series so far has been building up towards, and that is the ultimate battle of not just so much fist, but also will between Static and Ebon. This is something I'm very excited for because I feel like every time that two characters with superpowers interact with one another, it shouldn't always just be about throwing fist. I mean, yeah, that part's pretty fun, and I feel like that is ultimately what sells comics a lot of the time. But as I've gotten older, I've just always felt that, yeah, sometimes it should be a conversation, and that is, for the most part, largely what this issue is. It is a conversation about ideals and whose way is right. And I feel like I talked about this a great deal in previous issues, and if for whatever reason you haven't been keeping up with my Static coverage, check out this playlist up here and you'll learn all about it. All of that aside, the thing that I've said I feel more often than not in regards to the dynamic between Static and Ebon is that if you really want to break it down to its most base terms, you know, we always throw around over on the X-Men side of things that Charles Xavier is supposed to be like the Dr. King and Magneto is supposed to be like the Malcolm X. You could make that same dynamic over here on this side in Milestone Media with Static and Ebon. Static is the Dr. King mentality. Ebon is the Malcolm X mentality, but I think where you take it one step further with these characters and break them from that mold, and which honestly I feel is quite limiting, if we're being brutally honest. Not just for them, but I think for other comic characters as a whole. I feel like Static, who I feel is the wide-eyed, shining knight of the Dakota-verse, where you have Ebon, who is literally the stuff of shadows and darkness in the Dakota-verse, and Ebon shows us a taste of what all he's been through and what his power truly encompasses. And something that I feel doesn't get talked about enough with Ebon is it's not just the fact that his powers to control and manipulate and become total darkness and shadow to the point that he can literally take you to the shadow realm. The thing that's not talked about enough and something that is brought up in this issue is that he no longer has an actual body, which I found a very interesting take with this particular version of the character. Here we learn he has no physical body anymore. He is literally just a disembodied shadow that can take shape in the real world. And that his power seems to be emboldened by the suffering and sadness and anger of all those who were affected by the Big Bang. And even to a lesser extent, all the pain and suffering that happens in his community on the whole. But what I love about this issue, and one of the things that, because Ebon is trying to manipulate Static into doing things his way, to save his brother Adam, aka the Rubber Band Man, he is trying to get Static to do things the evil way, the anti-hero way, however you want to put it. He wants Static to break bad in order to save his brother. Now, Static, let's just go ahead and get this out of the way. He's not going to do that. And it was never on the table for him to do that, because to do that would be Static betraying everything that he is, everything that he represents. If he were to fall in line with Ebon, no matter how cool it would appear to some people, that would literally make Static lose one of the key core aspects of his character that I think actually attracts people to them in the first place, and they don't even realize it. He would become a monster. And I'm glad that that is not the direction the story is going. Speaking of direction, I think it's high time I direct you.
No time for modesty, bro.
Oh my God, the lights. Oh my God, there you are. Ebon heard me talking wild greasy about him, and he has now trapped me inside of his shadow realm, and I can't find my way out. What I need you to do, I need you to like the video. Liking this video is a way to help me find my way out of Ebon's shadow realm, and most importantly, it would really help me if you hit that subscribe button as well as tap that notification bell, so that way you don't miss any of my future videos talking about Static, Shadows of Dakota, as well as other comics from Milestone Media and Marvel, DC, and wherever else. Please, I desperately need your help. Please click the like button, click subscribe, click the notification bell. It's the only way I'm gonna be able to. Oh.
I warn you, you're not down.
Oh my God, I hear
you
now.
go right
I
to
gotta
the
get
top
out
of our
of here.
list.
Please, just whatever you do, please, you're my only. Oh. I like the idea that Static is actually, despite the fact that he is trapped in the Shadow Realm, despite the fact that he recognizes Ebon has his number here, that Ebon was so easily able to defeat him and bring him under heel in this realm, he is still trying to do everything humanly possible to save Ebon and himself. And that, I feel, was a very powerful message in this. And what I like here is that, yeah, all the while that Ebon is, completely raging, just throwing every single piece of rage and angst towards Static, even taking some of Static's own memories and constantly invoking the name of Quincy, the little kid that Static was a mentor to, who was ultimately killed by the same people who have kidnapped and are torturing Ebon's own brother, Adam. Static is not falling for the trap in all this, and ultimately recalls the power we've seen him use in the previous volume of Static, season 1, where he had absorbed so much power and static electricity that he ultimately turned the entire world around him blindingly white. I had a feeling he was going to tap back into that in some way, shape, form, or fashion, and he does, because as I talked about before, the idea of him not being able to summon his powers in Ebon's Shadow Realm, it was one of those scenarios where he had already used up a great deal of his power going in. But if he had power stored up, which it seems like he did in this instance, he was actually able to use his power much more effectively. Not to mention, he uses brain in this. As I said, he very likely would. He used his mind to figure out a way to channel his static electricity all across Ebon's realm, and also proving to Ebon that his power, while yes, it is emboldened by anger and fear and suffering, that he's not just limited to just those facets of the emotional spectrum. He can, in fact, be emboldened likely by other feelings, and it's just that those other feelings are so loud and strong that that is what fuels him. But he can actually do things another way. And Static, while it does actually take him using a taser punch to knock Ebon on his ass, he's still able to get through to him just the same. And while, yeah, he threw a blow, so what? He still was able to talk him down after that, once he was able to get the, I guess what you could say is the dark exterior of Ebon out of the picture and actually talk to the man underneath that, Ivan Evans. That part is what I thought, honestly, just, it sold this comic even more than what I feel anything else could have at this point. I think, yeah, while a fight between these two characters would have been a really awesome and fun thing to see, and who's to say we don't see that eventually at some point. But I do feel like what Nicholas Draper, Ivy, and Vita y'all have done with this series so far is that they have taken some of the things that, while admittedly, I was never the hugest fan of the Static Shock animated series, and I've said this multiple times. At the time it came out, I was, a teenager and was doing teenage stuff and had no interest whatsoever in cartoons unless they were anime at that point in my life. But one of the things I found really attractive about the prospect of these two creatives taking over the Static series, Nicholas Draper Ivy and Vita Ayala, they were able to go back, take some of the things about the Static Shock animated series that were really awesome, concepts, take it and put it in what I felt was not only a more modern light, but actually do it in a better way. And honestly, I like this better. I mean, yeah, Ebon being the bad guy, that's cool, but I think Ebon works better as a character if he is a more conflicted individual. And I feel like it shouldn't take 50 years of comics to get there. And I like that if this does stick, and who knows, it's not to say that it will, but it could always be that Ebon could always slip back into his more darker self. But I like it better when Ebon and Static are more like rivals as opposed to being enemies. I think that actually works better overall. Like, you got your Deku over here on this side, and you got your Bakugo over here on this side. You got your Goku over here on this side. You got your Vegeta over here on the other side. You get where I'm going with this, right? I like this aspect a lot better, and I know some people will probably be upset about it because, you know, everyone's got to be upset about something somewhere, somehow, right? I think this is an infinitely more interesting dynamic that Nicholas and Vita have crafted here. I want to see more of this. I want to know where this goes next. And while we do know that the next issue is going to conclude the Shadows of Dakota arc, I personally would like to see what is going to be the future going forward. That's actually what I'm the most excited to see, is when we get to that next issue. What is going to be the future for Static and Ebon going forward? Is this what seems to be like a new status quo for these two characters is being set up here, where these two are willing to work with one another now that Ebon's kind of off his Rager deal? That is honestly the most interesting part, and I know they are going to set up something amazing. So I'm going to tell you right now, go ahead, go into the next issue of Static Shadows of Dakota #7, and just expect to see some really wild-ish pop off and Ebon being set up for greatness going forward. But anyways, if you enjoyed this video, do the YouTube thing. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and make sure to tap that notification bell so that way you don't miss out on any of my future videos breaking down comics like Static, as well as other comics from Milestone, as well as DC, Marvel, and wherever else. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, and let me know what you thought about Static Shadows of Dakota #6. Keep it plus ultra and sound off in the comments.